All praises to the Most High. Brothers and sisters, I'm your host, the Apostle Reuben of IUPR Bible Radio, podcasting out of Little Rock, Arkansas, to the true saints of the Most High Yah. Friday night again, brothers and sisters. Friday night, Sabbath night. And up on the screen, you see Acts chapter 10 and 1. Now, brothers and sisters, I can go over Acts 10 all day. And I'm sure that because brothers and sisters, it's about the details. And the Christians are not about the details. They're about uniting weak minds together. Giving them a vision. And those that don't study, don't understand, will receive that vision. That's why it says, we're coming back to Acts 10 and 1. But I want to go to the book of Proverbs. I want to go to Proverbs chapter 14. I'm going to show you guys what I mean. I'm going to show you, brothers and sisters, what I mean. Proverbs chapter 14, verse 15. And then we're going to read verse 18. Proverbs says, in Proverbs 14 and 15, or Solomon, the simple believeth every word, but the prudent man looketh well to his going. So you have to be prudent in this Bible. Willing to learn. You have to be willing to go the extra mile. You have to be willing to search out. You must be willing to study. That's what the prudent do. Because the simple, they're going to believe every word that's taught by anybody behind any pulpit on Sunday morning. Let's drop down. I want you to see this. Verse 18. The simple inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. See, the knowledge of God comes out of law. Let me show you where this knowledge is going to come from. Let's get to the book of Proverbs chapter 2. I'm going to read it real quick. Proverbs chapter 2, verse 1. My son, if thou wilt receive my words and hide my commandments with thee, so that thou incline thy ear unto wisdom, and apply thine heart to understanding. Yea, if thou criest after knowledge, and liftest up thy voice for understanding, if thou seekest her as silver, and searchest for her as for hid treasures. Now, I want you to pay attention. All of this is from verse 1, the commandments. See, the commandments. That's why in verse 2, it says, so that thou incline thy heart unto thy ear unto wisdom, and apply thy heart to understanding. Why? Because wisdom and understanding come from the commandments. That's where it comes from. That's why Deuteronomy 4, let me show you something. Deuteronomy. Now, I don't want to go into this. I'm taking my time, but I'm going to show you where the knowledge of God comes from. This is why, brothers and sisters, it's important that we understand the law. Deuteronomy 4 and 5. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord my God commanded me. Now, this is Moses talking. That ye should do so in the land whither ye go to possess it. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding. Wisdom and understanding came out of the law. from the beginning. That is where wisdom and understanding came from. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations. We shall hear all these statutes. The other nations shall hear all the statutes that you're understanding and learning, because this is the wisdom and the understanding, and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. That's all God ever wanted for Israel, is to keep his statutes, and the wisdom and the understanding would have been in the people from the law. Again, Psalms, the book of Psalms 111, verse 10. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Now, I want to go, what is the fear of the Lord? Real quick. What is the fear of the Lord? Praise ye the Lord. Blessed is the man that feareth the Lord, that delighteth greatly in his commandments. So when you fear God, you fear his commandments. You keep his commandments. You delighteth in his commandments. When you fear him, you keep the commandments. That's simple, huh? So when you go, let's go back. The fear of the Lord, the keeping of the commandments, is the beginning of wisdom. A good understanding have all they that do his commandments. His praise endureth forever. So wisdom and understanding comes from the law. Let's go back to Proverbs 2. I want to show you. Proverbs 2 in verse 1. My son, if thou wilt receive my words and hide my commandments with thee, so thou shalt incline thine ear unto wisdom and apply thy heart to understanding, because that's where the wisdom and understanding comes from, the law. Yea, if thou criest after knowledge and liftest up thy voice for understanding, if thou seekest her as silver and searchest for her as for hid treasures, then, watch this, then shalt thou understand the fear of the Lord, the law, and find the knowledge of God. The knowledge of God can only be found by those that keep the commandments. Any other knowledge, brothers and sisters, is commentary from these long ago men that decided to break down a verse by their own spirit. Oh, this is what it means. That's what it means. And what the church does, now we talk about the Sunday church now, what they do is they take that commentary from the past and they execute that through the churches. And they're not going to change it, because why would they? Why would they do that? So when we go back to Proverbs chapter 14, real quick, then we're going back to Acts 10. We go back to Proverbs 4, verse 18, the simple shall inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. Why? Because we can understand the knowledge of God through law, through precepts, through witnesses. The answer is not, or let me put it this way. The answer is not going to always be easy to accept. The Bible is a book you have to accept. Whatever's written is written. Now you could try to change it like they do, but it's not going to make any difference. When Christ returns, it's either you're going to get it the right way or another way. So we go back to Acts 10. Acts chapter 10. Acts 10 and verse 1. There was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius. So, right away, let me finish reading it, then I'll make mine. A centurion of the band called the Italian band. Now, here's a man called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band. Now, Italian, Italy, Rome. So here's a Roman. He was a centurion, the leader of many, many soldiers. But you see, brothers and sisters, when we go back to Luke, I'm just going to, we're looking at this now. We're looking at this in detail. Luke chapter 3. I'm thinking it is. Luke chapter 3. Now I want y'all to read this with me. I'm thinking I'm in the right spot. If I'm not, we're going to find it. Here it is. Luke 3 and 12. Then came also publicans to be baptized, and said unto him, Master, what shall we do? And he said unto them, exact no more than that which is appointed you. So he's telling these publicans, whatever taxes these people owed, don't appoint any more over them than they're supposed to get. Don't try to advance on the people. And the soldiers likewise demanded of him, saying, and what shall we do? And he said unto them, do no violence to no man, neither accuse any falsely. And be content with your wages. Wages. They were getting paid. Money. Job. A job. These soldiers, they had a job. Wage. Job. Now, when it says soldiers, from where? Rome. Israel didn't have an army. Of course, you see, these scholars know Israel does not have an army. Rome has the army. If you think about it today, brothers and sisters, the Caucasian man has an army. The blacks in his army get paid a wage for being in his army. But the African American, so-called, doesn't have their own army. We don't have an army. Me being a Native American, we don't have an army. The so-called Mexicans don't have an army. The only ones that has an army is the Caucasian. China has an army. Even some African countries have armies. There are certain people in this world that don't have armies. Even Iran has armies. So when you look at Luke 3:14, I just digressed a bit. And the soldiers were the soldiers of the Roman army. But when I want to show you this now, I want to show you this in the book of Acts. In the book of Acts, chapter 13. Acts 13, verse 24. When John had first preached before his coming the baptism of repentance to all the people of Israel, John did not teach all nations repentance. The only one he taught was Israel as a nation. The Bible is not going to tell you a story. You have to read every line. Christians want you to read the whole chapter. You get That's what eating pig does to your head. Eating the bacon, the chitlins, the hog maw. See that your brain. when John had first preached before his coming the baptism of repentance to all the people of Israel. He taught Israel only. But when we go back to Luke now, when we go back to Luke chapter 3, Luke chapter 3, verse 14, and the soldiers likewise demanded of him. Soldiers. So who were these soldiers? Common sense would say Israelites. These were Judeans in the Roman army. We've been telling people, these are the details Christians like to sweep under the rug. They're not going to explain this. There were Judeans in the Roman army. John didn't teach repentance to anyone but Israel. But you see soldiers in verse 14. And the soldiers. Who? Roman soldiers. But let me make sense of it though. Because you hear me saying Roman soldiers in Israel. Let's make a little bit more sense. Let's go to Acts. Let's go back because I want to slow this up before I get into Acts. There's so much going into Acts 10. There's so much going into Cornelius, but let's go at it pretty slow because I'm gonna do this way tonight. Acts 22 verse 3. I am verily a man which am a Jew born in Tarsus, a city in Cilicia, yet brought up in this city at the feet of Gamaliel, and taught according to the perfect manner of the law of the fathers, and was zealous toward God, as ye all are this day. I read it all for a reason, but I want you to pay attention to the top. It says, I am verily, truly, a man which am a Jew born in Tarsus. So Paul's ethnicity, he's a Judean. He's a Judean. Born in Rome. Born. But when we go further down in the Acts, see these Christians, brothers, that's why we don't entertain Christians or not. Because we know the agenda. Everything we say is going to be cut off. Oh, no. We don't have time for that. We're showing you this is life or death for some. When Christ comes out of that sky, Acts 22:25. And as they bound him with thongs, Paul said unto the centurion that stood by, is it lawful for you to scourge a man that is a Roman? Now, which is he? He just told you in verse 3, verily, I am a man which am a Jew born. There's the key word. He was born. He was a free born Judean in Rome, making him a citizen of Rome. These are the details they leave out of the Bible. So Paul was a Judean born in Rome. Watch this, verse 25. And as they bound him with thongs, Paul said unto the centurion that stood by, is it lawful for you to scourge a man that is a Roman and uncondemned? Who? Roman and uncondemned Roman. Now Paul's a Roman. Many of you can see where I'm going here. Paul was a Judean that was born in another nation, making him a citizen of that nation. That's why he says he is a Roman. That's why I want you to pay attention. And when the centurion heard that, he went and told the chief captain, saying, "Take heed what thou doest, for this man is a Roman." Now, I want you to pay attention to verse 27. Then the chief captain came and said unto him, "Tell me, art thou a Roman?" This is the question being asked. The chief captain asked Paul, was he a Roman? He said, yeah. So Paul was a Roman. But ethnicity wise, he was a Judean. This is what's hidden in Christianity. This is what's hidden. That's why when you go back to Acts, now we're just taking a look at some examples. Acts chapter 16. We're going to start in verse 20. And he brought them to the magistrates, saying, "These men being Jews, do exceedingly trouble our city." Pay attention now. "And teach customs which are not lawful for us to receive, neither to observe, being Romans." Who are these Romans? Now I want you to go back up to verse 20. "And brought them to the magistrates, saying, These men being Jews do exceedingly trouble our city." Magistrates. What about what it says? The magistrates. What are the magistrates? Let's go to Matthew 23. I'm doing this in another way, brothers and sisters, but I want you to listen. Matthew 23, verse 1. "Then spake the Messiah to the multitude and to the disciples, saying, The scribes and Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. All therefore whatsoever they bid you observe." Okay. "That bid you observe, that observe and do. But do not ye after the works, for they say and do not. For they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers." I want you to pay attention. "But all their works they do to be seen of men. They make broad their phylacteries, and enlarge the borders of their garments, and love the utmost rooms of the feast, and of the chief seats in the synagogues." Oh, now, hold on now. "And greetings in the markets, and to be called of men, Rabbi, Rabbi." Now I want you to understand the markets. I want you to understand the markets, because this is what's important. Understand what we talk about when we talk about the markets. Now, I'm going to go back to Acts 16. But I want you to understand the markets. The markets. Let's go to verse 2. "The scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat." So you'll know this by just looking. I'm going back to Acts 16, and I'm going to I think I skipped verse 19. I'm going to Acts 16, 19. Then I got to get into it. I don't know. It seemed to be what I wanted to do, but I'm not going to get to the point because it's already been 26 minutes. I'm just showing you, brothers and sisters, how this works, what's being covered up. Acts 16, 19. And when her masters saw the hope of their gains was gone, they caught Paul and Silas and drew them into the marketplace or to the rulers. Now, the marketplace where the rulers were the Pharisee, scribes. That's the rulers. So when we go down, I want you to pay attention, verse 20, and brought them to the magistrates, see, saying, these men, being Jews, do exceedingly trouble our city. But wait, remember what we just read? Remember what we just read in Acts 22 and verse 3? And then Acts 22, verse 25 through 27? Now, pay attention. It says, and brought them to the magistrate, saying, these men being Jews. But Paul was a Roman too now. Paul was a Roman by citizen. Now, Paul and Silas are the Jews they're referring to. Exceedingly trouble our city. And Paul and Silas, and teach customs which are not lawful for us to receive, neither to observe, being Romans. Those Romans were Judean citizens. They're in the magistrates where the Jews resort. Where the rulers resort. See, what Christians don't want you to know is that Judeans born in Rome makes them Romans. So when it comes to Acts, now, when we're looking at this, I'm going to go ahead and say this. Now, Paul and Silas were teaching these Romans what? Christ. The customs of Christ. They were teaching. But these particular, remember, Paul was let me show you. Paul, I'm going to show you what Paul was. Paul, that's why you have to have proof. Paul, but when Paul perceived, wait a minute. Okay. But when Paul perceived that one part were Sadducee and the other Pharisee, he cried out in the council, men and brethren, I am a Pharisee. Paul was a Pharisee, son of a Pharisee. So he's a Pharisee. Paul was a former Pharisee. He was a Pharisee before he even knew Christ. So if you're a Pharisee, what do you participate in? The temple, the law. These are the details Christians leave out. So Paul, being a Pharisee, before he was even introduced into the body of Christ in Acts chapter 9, he was a Pharisee and believed in the law of the temple, the sacrifice. So going back, you have to understand, brothers and sisters, these are the things that when you go to Cornelius, if you don't understand these things, it's going to be rough. But what we do know is that Paul was taught the law in Rome. Paul was taught the law in Rome. Let me show you. Again, Paul was taught the law in Rome. Acts 22:3. I am verily a man which am a Jew born in Tarsus, a city in Cilicia, yet brought up in this city at the feet of Gamaliel, and taught according to the perfect manner of the law of the fathers, and was zealous toward God, as you all are this day. He was brought up in the city of Cilicia under Gamaliel and the law. So it wasn't uncommon, brothers and sisters, for many of the Jews who were Roman citizens in Rome to be taught their law in Rome. That doesn't mean all Romans and Greeks were keeping the law. These were the Jews that were scattered in those cities. Evidence. So when we go back, I'm going to show you, when we go back to Acts chapter 10, let's get on into it. Acts chapter 10, verse 1. And there was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band. But one thing you need to understand, brothers and sisters, is there were Judeans in the Roman army. Watch this. A devout man, one that feared God with all his house. Feared God. Okay, so let's go back. Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes 12. Verse 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments. For this is the whole duty of man. So, when it says a devout man, one that feared God with all his house, which gave much alms to the people, and prayed to God always. You telling me that this just so happened to be a Caucasian Roman that just decided to just one day pray to God, because and this is the confusing part. Now I'm chipping away at this. I'm chipping away. I'm having fun with it tonight, brothers and sisters. This is Friday nights, so we're gonna have fun with it. I want to go to, again, Isaiah chapter 44. Isaiah 44, verse 16. I just want to show you. He burneth part thereof in the fire. With part thereof he eateth flesh. He roasteth roast. And it is satisfied. Yea, he warmeth himself and saith, Aha, I am warm. I have seen the fire. So, what is this talking about? What is this talking about? Let's go up. See where I want to do. Well, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to keep on reading. Let me just keep on reading. And the residue thereof he maketh a god. So here's an idol. He makes an idol. Now these are the Gentiles that have not ever known God. Now there's a difference between the Gentile. Now remember, I'm coming back here. I always say uncircumcision The state or condition of being uncircumcised, people who are not circumcised, Gentiles. Because that's what Gentiles are, the uncircumcision. Abraham was one. Before he was circumcised, see, brothers and sisters, this is the part right here where that gets me. This is the part. I want to go to Genesis 10, then I'm going to come back. Because I'm having fun with it tonight. I'm showing you how diverse we are here. I want to see Genesis 10 and verse 5. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their families, in their nations. But I want you to understand what they have done with this. I want you to understand what they have done. The Christians and most of these so-called out here, man, did something that was sinister. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Riphath, and Togarmah. So Togarmah, Riphath, Ashkenaz, Gomer, pay attention, and the sons of Yavon. This is one of Japheth's children. Elisha, and Tarshish, Kittim, and Dedanim, or Dodanim. I think that's it, Dodanim. But I want to read verse 5. By these were the isles of the Gentiles. So what happened is they took verse 3 and 4 and 5 and put them together and said, okay, by these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands. And they figure that since Japheth's children were named in verse 3 and 4, that Japheth were the Gentiles. And that was it. No. Shem and Ham also were the Gentiles. All of them were Gentiles. The whole group, all three sons. Why? Because I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you in 1 Chronicles chapter 1. First Chronicles 1. I want to drop down real quick because we're having fun with this. First Chronicles 1, verse 17. And the sons of Shem, Elam, and Ashur. Now, I want you to pay attention to that Ashur. Because Ashur is Assyria. And Arphaxad and Lud. I want you to pay attention to the Lud. And Aram and Uz and Hul and Gether and Meshech. So I want you to pay attention to Ashur and Lud. We're going to see what the Bible calls these two groups that's out of Shem. They're out of Shem now. First place I want to go to is the book of Hosea. Hosea, chapter 8. And we're going to start in verse 8. Israel is swallowed up. Now shall they be among the Gentiles as a vessel wherein there is no pleasure. Now verse 9 is going to tell you who those Gentiles are. For they are gone up to Assyria. Israel is swallowed up. Now shall they be among the Gentiles as a vessel wherein is no pleasure. For they are gone up to Assyria. The father of Assyria is Ashur. And he came from Shem. So Shemites were also Gentiles because they were uncircumcised. Guess who else came from Shem? Abraham. Come on now. Abraham was uncircumcised before God circumcised him in Genesis 17, verse 1, down to 13, if you want to read it like that. You Lamentations 2 and verse, just real quick, Lamentations 2 and 9. This is the southern kingdom. Now we're just going, flowing here. Her gates are sunk in the ground, into the ground. He hath destroyed and broken her bars, her kings, and her princes are among the Gentiles. The law is no more. Her prophets also find no vision from the Lord. Now, when it says her princes are among the Gentiles, what Gentiles did they go among? Babylon. Babylon was, see, brothers and sisters, the Africans were Gentiles. Japheth did not come and take Judea. Africans did, Hamites, Babylon. They took Judea, destroyed the temple. This is why we keep telling you, brothers and sisters, the uncircumcision, the state or condition of being uncircumcised, people who are not circumcised, Gentiles, because the Gentiles are the uncircumcised. Any man or woman, like Abraham, he was uncircumcised. Do we have to prove that? Let's go to Romans 4. Romans 4. Boy, let's drop down to verse 9. Romans 4 and 9. Cometh this blessedness then upon the circumcision only, or upon the uncircumcision also? For we say that faith was reckoned to Abraham for righteousness. Watch this now. How was it then reckoned? When he was in circumcision or in uncircumcision? Which means Abraham was uncircumcised, like the rest of them. The state or condition of being uncircumcised, people who are not circumcised, Gentiles. And this is why the Christians don't want you to equivalate the two. Oh, Gentiles mean non-Jew. No, Gentiles just mean uncircumcised. Abraham, Paul's trying to tell him, Abraham was a Gentile before he was circumcised. So the circumcision was the basis. These people know us. These people who write these definitions know what they're talking about. They know. They know. So when we go back, I want you to pay attention. Back to Acts. I wanted you to see, brothers and sisters. It's not going to be something I'm going to just basically keep going over. But the uncircumcision since Abraham's time, Genesis 10 and 5, Gentiles. He was one. Abraham himself being uncircumcised, was a Gentile. The covenant of circumcision separated him from the rest. The removing of the foreskin of the flesh is how God did that. A devout man, and back to Acts 10 and 2. A devout man and one that feareth God. He kept the commandments with all his house. His house kept the commandments. which gave much alms to the people and prayed to God always. I want you to look. He saw in a vision, evidently about the 9th hour of the day, an angel of the Lord coming in to him and saying unto him, Cornelius. I want you to pay attention. And when he looked on upon him, he was afraid and said, What is it, Lord? And he said unto him, Thy prayers. Now that's where we were. So let me go back. Thy prayers, thy prayers. Let's go back to Isaiah 44. I knew it was something I got too deep into it, but I knew it was something I had to do. Isaiah 44 in verse 17. I want you to pay attention. Isaiah 44:17. And the residue thereof he maketh a god, even his graven image. He falleth down unto it, and worshipeth it, and prayeth unto it, and saith, Deliver me, for thou art my God. I want y'all to pay attention to what he says. And worshipeth it. He's this of the Gentiles of the uncircumcision that's not circumcised. He worshipeth it and prayeth unto it, meaning that this man prayeth unto his imagination. When did the Bible ever say God hears the prayer of anybody? See, these Christians again, I have you believing that the Gentiles prayed unto God, and the Gentiles did not pray unto the God of Israel, and he answered it. No. Can that be proven? I'm not done. I'm just having fun tonight. Isaiah 45, watch this, verse 20. Assemble yourselves and come, draw near together, ye that are escaped of the nations. They have no knowledge. The nations have no knowledge that set up wood of their graven image and pray unto a God that cannot save. See, those nations without God prayeth to nothing. That's what we be. This is why I say, brothers and sisters, when the Christians, they go into chapters, leaving off details, the Bible has never, ever taught, what I mean by taught, the Spirit I mean, that nations prayed unto the God of Israel and he heard it. That doesn't make sense. It never happened. When they pray to something that cannot save. That's why 1 Kings. I want to take you back to 1 Kings. I'm playing with this tonight. 1 Kings chapter 8. I want you to pay attention to. I'm gonna read this real quick. Watch this. How do I want to do this? All right. If they sin against thee, for there is no man that sinneth not, and thou be angry with them and deliver them to the enemy, so that they carry them away captives into a land of their enemy, far or near. See, far or near. So this is about Israel being carried away captive if they broke the law. Yet if they shall bethink themselves in the land whither they were carried captives, and repent and make supplication unto thee in the land of them that carried them captive, saying, We have sinned and have done perversely and have committed wickedness. So return unto thee with all their heart, with all their soul, in the land of their enemies, which led them away captive, and pray unto thee toward their land, which thou gavest unto their fathers, the city which thou hast chosen, which was Jerusalem, and the house which I have built for thy name, then hear thou their prayer and their supplication in heaven, thy dwelling place, and maintain their cause. The Bible did not say every nation could pray and he hear the cause. It says if Israel in the land of their enemies pray, God would hear them. So the church is out of order already. There was no verse in the Old Testament that taught any nation, any old Gentile nation could pray to the God of Israel. None. We've seen it. We've looked at it. But it says, if an Israelite uncircumcision prays, he's going to hear them. They're carried away captive. If you don't, brothers and sisters, let me tell you something. I want you to pay attention to this. When you see verses in the Bible like Matthew, Matthew 17. Matthew 17 and verse 24. And when they were come to Capernaum, they that received tribute money came to Peter and said, doth not your master pay tribute? Now here's Rome now. He said, yes. And when he was coming to the house, Jesus prevented him, the Messiah, I should say, saying, what thinkest thou, Simon? Of whom do the kings of the earth take custom or tribute? Of their own children or of strangers? Now, I want you to pay attention. Peter saith unto him, of strangers. The Messiah saith unto him, then of the children free. Meaning that Rome had them under their subjection. The Judeans were paying Romans taxes. I want you to understand this. The Judeans were paying the Romans taxes. And then Christ goes on to say, I want you to pay attention. In Matthew 24, for then shall be great tribulation. Now he's telling a prophecy, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time. To this time means Christ is in tribulation. If Christ says since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be, when he says that there shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time. This time means at the time of Christ, they were in tribulation. Under who? Rome. Rome had them, or I should say Rome ruled over them. Rome was the ruling nation on earth. How do you see, this is, how do you explain Matthew? See, this is the reality of the Bible. Matthew 2, Matthew 2:16. I'm just getting to the point. When Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceeding wroth, and sent forth and slew, pay attention, and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem, and all the coast thereof, from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men. Now you tell me, Herod's a Roman. How does he go and kill babies without resistance? You mean these Jews couldn't stop this Roman from killing their babies? No, much like the African Americans can't stop Caucasians from killing their babies. It's the same thing. Israel doesn't have an army to fight back Rome. They were colonized, taken over. This is the reality. Luke 13. Luke 13. Luke 13. Verse 1. There were present at that season some that told him, the him is Christ, of the Galileans, whose blood Pilate had mingled with their sacrifices. Wow. Interesting points come out of this, brothers and sisters. Interesting points. These are some of the things that churches keep from you. When you're going into the details, they keep it from you. So when we go back to Acts 10, I want to go back to Acts 10 because I've gotten almost up to an hour here. Acts 10 and 2, a devout man. Let's look up that word devout. Let's look up that word devout real quick. Devout. What does that mean? I'm going to show you. And one Ananias, so this is talking about Ananias, a devout man according to the law, having a good report of all the Jews that dwelt there. See? To be devout is according to the law. Let's go back. Acts 10, verse 2, a devout man, one that feareth God with all his house, which gave much alms to the people and prayed to God always. Now, we're going back down. Verse 4, and when he looked on him, he was afraid and said, what is it, Lord? And he said unto him, thy prayers and thine alms are come up for a memorial before God. Thy prayers. Now, again, the Christians have to prove, okay, because everything is supposed to have changed at the cross. No. You mean to tell me now that's a doctrine that where is this doctrine? Oh, God is going to hear the prayer of anybody. We just read, God, there was nowhere in Scripture that God hears the prayer of Gentiles, other nations. Why? Again, I'm going to show you why. Once again, he never heard the prayer of God. You're going to see why. We're going to look. Amos. Because we can't keep these Christians. No. Amos 3 and 1. Hear this word that the Lord has spoken unto you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, you only have I known of all the families of the earth, therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities. The only one God knew was the children of Israel. He didn't know. When it says, you are the family that I've known, you are the only family that established the promise from your father Abraham, bringing you up out of Egypt. You've all I've known. I have never known another group of nations beside you. Joel 2:27, we go back to Joel 2:27, Christians avoid this. See, everything's out of order. And the Christian, in the Christian theology, everything's out of order. And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Lord your God, and none else. None else means I'm not the God of nobody else but you. And my people shall never be ashamed. See, this is why verses like Isaiah 45 and 20 exist. This is why. We're going to go back to Isaiah 45 and 20, where it states, assemble yourselves and come, draw near together, ye that are escaped of the nations. They have no knowledge. They set up wood of their graven image and pray unto a God that cannot save. they're praying unto a God that cannot save, which means they pray to their imagination. God doesn't hear it. This is what we're telling people. Got to see past things. So when we go back to Acts 10, real quick, because the Christians, they like to put, they go in. I'm not going to go over all Acts 10. I don't have all that time, but maybe in stages I'll go through it one day. But again, we go back to Acts 10 and 4, and when he looked on him, he was afraid and said, "What is it, Lord?" And he said unto him, "Thy prayers," see, prayers, "thine alms are come up for a memorial before God." Prayers. Again, Revelation. See, we got them at prayers, brothers and sisters. Revelation 5. Revelation 5. Verse 8. And when he had taken the book, the 4 beasts and 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, having every one of them harps and golden vials full of odors, which are the prayers of the saints. It didn't say prayers of all nations. It says prayer of the saints. Wait a minute. Revelation 8 and 2. And I saw the 7 angels which stood before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. And another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer, and there was given unto him much incense, that he should offer it with the prayer of all saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. The prayers of all saints, not of all nations. All nations was these people. I'll tell y'all, all these religions that are created are impure. Oh, Islam, we're praying to the same God. No, God did no. The only prayers were the saints' prayers that the angels handled. Saints. Psalms 119. No, not Psalms 119. This is Psalms 148. Psalms 148. Verse 14. He also exalted the horn of his people, the praise of all his saints, even of the children of Israel. A people near unto him, praise ye the Lord. Ooh, the saints are the children of Israel. Again, Psalms 149 and 1. Let me put it back up. Praise ye the Lord, sing unto the Lord a new song, and his praise in the congregation of the saints. Let Israel rejoice in him that made him. Let the children of Zion be joyful in their king. Israel are the saints. They're people. A people. Hosea 11. I'm going back to the precepts. Hosea 11. Verse 12. Ephraim compasseth me about with lies, the northern kingdom, and the house of Israel with deceit. But Judah yet ruleth with God, and is faithful with the saints. Ephraim and Judah, saints, The saints of the children of Israel. The saints were never anyone that believed in Jesus is a saint. Anybody that's washed in the blood. No. Saints were a people. You're reading it. See, the Christians, they don't have verses for that. They don't have verses for it. 1 Corinthians 1:1 called to be saints. No, no. They don't have any witnesses. We do. The saints are Israelites. Acts 9. Acts 9. Now I want you to remember, Judah yet ruleth with God and is faithful with the saints. Saints. Acts 9:13. And Ananias answered, Lord, I have heard by many of this man how much evil he has done to thy saints at Jerusalem. Judah, Jerusalem, Jews, saints. See, brothers and sisters, there's no wiggle room for the Christian. The saints are the children of Israel. And their prayers is who God was only hearing their prayers. And Cornelius was one Israelite that was scattered in these places. That's why 1 Kings, you got to understand, Cornelius is a centurion. He has a job. He's part of the Roman band, the Italian band. There's nothing special about him. But the Christians are trying to say, oh, well, he was a white man that received God. And no, he was pay attention, a devout man, a man of the law. Gave alms and prayed. God was only hearing the prayer of one people, whether they were captive or not. So I say, see, Cornelius. We see no evidence at all, brothers and sisters. By the way, I went over this, that Cornelius, but, again, it's about verses. So I want to drop down to Acts 10. Like I said, I was going to cover it. I can't cover it all, but Acts 10. Verse 27. And as he talked with him, he went in and found many that were come together. And he said unto them, ye know how that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come unto one of another nation. But God has showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. See there? They say of another nation. But wait now. See, here's how they do it. And the Christians, they will never, ever go into detail with these things. But because we do, they're beginning to see that members that catch this are like, man, you guys aren't preaching nothing on Sunday morning. You're reading a verse, but these guys are breaking verses down. And now what they're beginning to do is they're beginning to throw a lot of confusion. Oh, well, let's go face it. We got to do something. Let's hold them up. Let's get on their nerves. It's not going to be that they prove us wrong by chapter and verse. It's just a bunch of bickering. Let's keep the lie alive. Let's keep doing it. And this is one of the verses they use. But let's go back and look. What does he mean, company of another nation? To keep company from another nation. Let's look at this here. Ezekiel chapter 35. I'm going to show you something. Ezekiel 35, because the Christians will not teach the history. Ezekiel 35, verse 9. Now, this is talking about Esau, the forefather of Caucasians. I will make thee perpetual desolations, and thy cities shall not return. And ye shall know that I am the Lord, because thou hast said, these two nations, these two countries shall be mine, and we will possess it, whereas the Lord was there. What does it mean, these two nations? These two nations. What does that mean? Let's go back to Ezekiel 37. Ezekiel 37. Because I'm getting this real quick. I'm getting this for you real quick. Ezekiel 37, verse 21. But say unto them, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, the Gentiles, whether they be gone, and will gather them on every side, and bring them into their own land. And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel. I will make them one nation. And one king shall be to them all. And they shall be no more two nations. So Israel, they were two nations. They were two nations. The north and the southern kingdom. And there shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms anymore. At all. So what happens is, man, we get to listen to the Christians. Judah is a nation, and the southern kingdom of Israel was a nation, and the northern kingdom was a nation. That's why it says in the book of John 11, verse 50, nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not. And this he spake not of himself, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that the Messiah should die for that nation. That nation, pay attention. And not for that nation only. See, that he should die for that nation, which were the Jews, but that he should also gather in one the children that were scattered abroad. See, this is what we're talking about. He didn't die for that nation only, but for another nation. When he says he didn't die for that nation only, means he didn't just die for you, he died for this other nation that was scattered abroad. And he's going to gather them together. Who were scattered abroad? Zechariah 2, verse 6. Ho, ho, come forth, flee from the land of the north, saith the Lord. For I have spread you abroad as the four winds of heaven, saith the Lord. Four winds, I've spread you abroad. Who did God spread abroad? Deliver thyself, O Zion. Come on now. Zion is who was spread abroad. James 1:1. James 1, verse 1. James, a servant of God and of the Lord, the Messiah Christ, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greetings. That's who was scattered abroad. See, Christ didn't die for those Jews. He also died for the rest of Israel, those that were scattered abroad, to gather them together back into the fold. So when Peter says, this is what trips me out. When Peter says in Acts 10, verse 28, And he said unto them, ye know how that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come unto one of another nation. Does that mean that that other nation was another type of people? No, that other nation was their brother that was a nation, northern kingdom. That's the prayer God heard. And that is what Cornelius was, northern kingdom. I want you to notice in Acts 11, verse 1. And the apostles and brethren that were in Judea heard that the Gentiles had also received the word of God. Now, see, this is where they get, well, see, Cornelius. Now, brothers and sisters, I'm going through this in kind of a mystery because I could have done it. I could go through this many different ways in my proof, but right here is the way I chose to present it. Friday night. And the apostles and brethren that were in Judea heard that the Gentiles, here we go. So the Christians are like, oh, these are the Gentiles. See, Cornelius was a Gentile. He was another nation. Had also received the word of God. But I want you to pay attention. And when Peter was come up to Jerusalem, they that were of the circumcision contended with him, saying, thou wentest in to men uncircumcised, and didst eat with them. Now, and I keep telling people this, in verse 1, Cornelius and his men were Gentiles. In verse 3, they were the uncircumcised. They meant the same thing. Uncircumcision, the state or condition of being uncircumcised, people who are not circumcised, Gentiles. That's what it means, that Gentiles and uncircumcision is the same. The Christians, they work very hard to try to make the meaning of Gentile, oh, it's a non-Israelite, a non-Jew, it's people that are not circumcised, Gentiles, as you just read, right here. Easy to see. You're seeing it when you go to Acts 11:1, Gentiles, Acts 11:3, uncircumcised. It's the same thing. But the Christians know that if it means uncircumcised, that those scattered Israelites had not yet been circumcised in the flesh. In the flesh. In the flesh. I want you to pay attention. These were Israelites uncircumcised in the flesh. They were the uncircumcision. Why do you think, again, Paul did this in Acts 15:1. And certain men which came down from Judea taught the brethren. They taught their brethren, the Jews that were down there, and said, except ye be circumcised after the manner of Moses, ye cannot be saved. Because there were uncircumcised Israelites among the nations. By the flesh, of course. Like Abraham was. See, the Christians, they know that if people understand that the uncircumcision, because, and you keep saying it, again, Ephesians 2, verse 11. Easily, brothers and sisters. Wherefore remember that ye being in times past Gentiles in the flesh, who are called the uncircumcision. Who was the ye? Who was the ye in times past? Called Gentiles of the uncircumcision. Who is the ye? Paul, an apostle of the Messiah Christ by the will of God, to the saints which are at Ephesus, and to the faithful in Christ the Messiah. The saints, children of Israel. So you got to know who the saints are. No pastor, brothers and sisters are not going to do it. Pastors cannot prove to you anybody that believed in Christ was a saint. No, they were Israelites scattered. This is what the book is about. So this letter is addressed to the saints and faithful at Ephesus. And guess what? Ephesians 2:11. Wherefore remember that ye were those saints and faithful brethren. See, Paul is telling them, you saints and faithful brethren. Remember, Judah will remain faithful among the saints. But Ephraim, see, that's why you don't pay attention. You have to pay attention. Hosea 11. Hosea 11. Hosea 11. Verse 12, Ephraim compasseth me about with lies, and the house of Israel with deceit. But Judah yet ruleth with God, and is faithful with his saints. See, Judah was the faithful of the saints, but Ephraim went off into idolatry. And see, they also knew, according to Hosea chapter 4, see, we're not going to play with these Christians. Hosea chapter 4, I want you to see what God told them. Ephraim is joined to idols. Let him alone. Let him alone. They knew this. The Jews knew. Ephraim, their brother, had been joined to idols. Fell in uncircumcision among the nations. The Christians, they're not going to teach this. This is why it was unlawful for Peter to keep company with that other nation, because those other nations went off into idolatry. The parable of Acts 10, brothers and sisters, there's no way. Back to Hosea 11. Hosea 11. Verse 12. Ephraim compasseth me about with lies, and the house of Israel with deceit. They went off into idolatry. And see what was going on. What was going on, brothers and sisters? We're going to go over in another podcast episode. Because it's a lot to teach when it comes to this Bible. A lot. But knowing in a mystery those things. Go back to Acts 10. Verse 28. Just want to go back real quick. Acts 10:28. And he said unto them, ye know how that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come unto one of another nation. That other nation was Northern Kingdom. Because there were two nations. This is what the Christians don't tell you. The history, brothers and sisters, the history of Israel is not going to be taught to you in a Gentile Christian church, so-called. Gentiles are not going to teach this. The Gentiles shouldn't even be teaching the Bible, but they are. Nobody is going to teach Israel's prosperity on Sunday morning. It's we all got to prosper. That's the game. But this other nation was Northern Kingdom. Nothing about anybody, and they want to force you to believe, oh, that it's just another. Brothers and sisters, you see all these one instances. Oh, just one man here, one man there. It's the Ethiopian eunuch in Acts 8. These are certain men. These are not any and everybody. So they go to Acts. Well, no, you don't. Wait a minute now. Then Peter opened his mouth and said, of a truth, I perceive that God is no respecter of persons. But in every nation he that feareth him and worketh righteousness is accepted with him. So God is no respecter of persons. What? I can't. I got a sermon coming up, respect of person, so I can't really go into it like I want to. But what I want to do is I want to look at, but in every nation, he that feareth him. Now, he that feareth him, like Cornelius feared him, kept the commandments, and worketh righteousness. Wait a minute now, because the Christians aren't doing this. They're talking. They're not fearing God. They're not keeping the commandments and worketh any righteousness at all. They're not doing it. They're keeping false worships. The BLT on the plate. Chitlins boiling in the kitchen. Psalms 15. It's in mockery, brothers and sisters. We gotta learn to look through the veil that they put up. Psalms 15:1. Lord, who shall abide in thy tabernacle, or who shall dwell in thy holy hill? He that walketh uprightly and worketh righteousness, and speaketh truth in his heart. The upright worketh righteousness. If you walk upright, you work righteousness. This is the same thing that was written in Acts 10. Peter said, worketh righteousness. To work righteousness is to walk uprightly. So what does it mean to walk uprightly, or to do anything in uprightness? Psalms 119. Because it says, he that walketh uprightly. If you're upright, how? What makes you upright according to the Bible? Psalms 119, verse 7, I will praise thee with uprightness of heart when I shall have learned thy righteous judgment. See, the uprightness comes from law, and that's how you work righteousness. So anyone that worketh righteousness by keeping the law, let's go back to Acts. Let's go back to Acts. Go back to Acts 10. No, wait a minute. Yeah, Acts 10. Verse 35. But in every nation he that feareth him keep his commandments and worketh righteousness is accepted with him. So the Christians say, well, anybody in every nation that feareth him and worketh righteousness, God accepts. But wait, verse 36, the word which God sent to the children of Israel. What Peter was saying, this word was sent to the children of Israel. That's why the Christians often avoid verse 36. That's why this is why. When you are battling a Christian or debating a Christian, one more verse or bust them up. The word which God sent unto who? The children of Israel. He didn't send this word to all nations. He sent this word into Israel among all nations. If this right here didn't tell you who Cornelius was, you would have never guessed it. They didn't want you to see it. He was Northern Kingdom. Guess who Cornelius was? He was Northern Kingdom of Israel. And what they want to try to do, as I said before, and I'll say again, if they say that the Gentiles also receive the word of God, if they're not, it's equivalent to being uncircumcised. That's all it means. When you put 2 and 2 together. And again, the state or condition of being uncircumcised, people who are not circumcised, Gentiles. That's what it is. The scholars know. But the Christians want to surround you with this confusion. Oh, it's non-Jew. No, you're never going to see non-Jew or people who are not Israelites. That is a commentary theology. That's theirs. That's what they're giving you. Why? Because this is telling you that any nation wasn't going into their religion or praying to their God or keeping their feast. That's the mystery of it. Two sides to it. No way could Cornelius pray to a God that is not his, or to be heard. There's no proof God hears the prayer of all nations. No proof. God didn't even care about. Let me tell you something, brothers and sisters. The book of Isaiah. The reality is, man, we're so-called white theologians have gotten ahead of us, and they've put their thoughts into the minds of the people, and generation after generation keep these lies going. Behold, the nations are as a drop of a bucket, and are counted as a small dust of the balance. Behold, he taketh up the isles as a very little thing. Do you see what God feels about the nations? This is written here. All nations before him are as nothing, and they are counted to him less than nothing. Vanity. The nations before God that he created are nothing. They're just people walking. Vanity, nothing. But when you look at Israel, though, I want you to pay attention, because somebody said, well, all nations, he says, all nations are nothing before. Well, let's see what Jeremiah says. Watch Jeremiah 30. Jeremiah 30. Verse 11. For I am with thee, saith the Lord, to save thee. Talking about Israel now. Though I make a full end of all nations, whether I have scattered thee. See, he's going to make a full end of all nations, yet he will not make a full end of thee, Israel. All nations are going to end, but not Israel. So there's one nation that is something. The rest of them are nothing. This is the reality. This is what Christianity was created to do, to keep you from understanding the reality of the Bible and giving you a fairy tale. Daniel 4, real quick. Watch what the angel shows Daniel. The Spirit shows Daniel. Daniel 4, and I want to read verse 35. And all the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing. Again, it tells you all the inhabitants of the earth are nothing to God, except Israel. And he doeth according to his will in the army of heaven. and among the inhabitants of the earth, and none can stay his hand or say unto him, what doest thou? See, brothers and sisters, you got to realize, man, you can't. The Christians block out verses and sing you a song or dance. Y'all heard, oh, the Holy Spirit. Speaking a different language now, huh? Nobody can understand, even God. That's crap. These are the things people need to know before the second coming of Christ. See, brothers and sisters, this is the way you look at it. You have to look at verses in the Bible. The Bible can't say this and then this and then that and then this. No. Whatever is constantly written by witnesses, what we pay attention to. Because there's lying going on in the brick building on the corner. The brick building that's on every corner was put there by the colonizer to enslave the brain as well as the body. This shows you, brothers and sisters, how rough it is and what time it is now. See, what was dominance before, because I'm going to tell you something, brothers and sisters. You have these white and black contesting now that the whites are going to get into the kingdom too. That we're going to get in. We're going to make it. Every nation is going. There's no surety in that. They went from domination in the Bible now to fighting to try to get into the kingdom. No. Now you know what time it is, brothers and sisters. The power has been given back to Israel to teach and understand this book. And now everyone else is fighting to fit in with us. These Caucasians are beginning to believe the teachings of the Hebrews because it's detailed out. All the things that they were hiding and hiding and hiding and hiding and hiding. Now, no. You go back to the key point. Let's go back to the book of Acts. Brothers, we're just rolling tonight. I usually don't teach this way, but we're rolling tonight. Now, I'm going to Acts because I see this all the time. I see how they do it. Oh, excuse me. And they of the circumcision which believed were astonished, as many as came with Peter, because that on the Gentiles also was poured out the gift of the Holy Ghost. Now, I just hit this key point. As long as you continue to believe that Gentiles are non-Jew, you're fooled. Because, let me tell you something, brothers and sisters. Nowhere in the First Testament does God prophesy that he's going to pour out his spirit on any and every nation. And see, this is another sermon I'm going into. That's why I can't share the details. See, they try to go back and use Joel 2:20, 28 and 29. Spirit upon all flesh, and they shall prophesy, again, putting themselves in it. When it comes to Cornelius, brothers and sisters, you have to look at the details. You have to look at the details. And so, If we go to Joel 2:28, I'm going to go there. I was just going to end it, but I'm going to go to Joel 2. Now remember now, Joel 2, verse 27 says, and you shall know that I am the Lord, I am in the midst of Israel. You shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Lord your God, that I am the Lord your God and none else. So he just says, I am the Lord your God and none else, and my people shall never be ashamed. But verse 28 says, and it shall come to pass afterwards that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your old man shall dream dreams. Your young men shall see visions. So he was the God of Israel and no one else, but he's going to pour out his spirit upon all nations. He's only the nation of Israel in verse 27, but he's going to pour his spirit out on everybody in verse 28. No. That's why Peter clears it up. Peter clears it up in Acts 2. He tells you what this is talking about. Acts 2, verse 17. Acts 2:17 says, and it shall come to pass in the last days, saith God, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. He's saying it a little bit different. And on my servants and on my handmaids will I pour out in those days of my spirit, and they shall prophesy. I want you to pay attention. Peter's going over it. And I will show wonders in heaven above and signs in the earth beneath, blood and fire and vapor and smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness. He's quoting Hosea. This is Hosea 2:31 and 32. Watch this. And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be saved. Ye men of Israel, hear these words. See, the audience to hear the word from verse 17 down to verse 21. When you look at verse 17, and it shall come to pass in the last days I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh. Who is he talking to? Verse 22. Ye men of Israel, hear these words. The targeted audience for all he just spoke was for Israel. Hear these words, ye men of Israel. Because that's who it was to. That's who the all flesh was, of Israel, not all nations. Over and over and over and over and over. There is not one verse that they can go to. I'm saying, besides that one that promises the Spirit to be, they have none. You just can't be like, oh, well, let's look at the New Testament verses. Oh, see, let's go to Galatians. See, that they'll go right to, never notice, again, they will not go to an Old Testament verse to prophesy to see if that's true or witness. No, they'll go to this. This is how it comes. This is how these things come up. I want you to pay attention. Right here, verse 14. I'm telling you that the blessing of Abraham might come on the Gentiles through the Messiah Christ, that we might receive, Paul says we, Paul's a Jew now, but that we might receive the promise of the Spirit through faith. And see, this is what these are the verses. But again, when you look at the Gentiles, that's the measuring bar there, brothers and sisters, Gentiles. And anybody that's not a Jew, a non-Jew, anybody that's non-Israel, no. The state or condition of being uncircumcised, people who are not circumcised, Gentiles. Anybody that's uncircumcised was a Gentile. including Northern Kingdom. It's all in the definition, brothers and sisters. All praise to the Most High, brothers and sisters. My eyes are flipping. I'm reading crazy here, but that's what happens when you're getting used to glasses, new glasses. You have to look and you have to move your eyes, get used to it. And since I do a lot of reading, yeah, you know. But, brothers and sisters, it's easy to look at the Bible with the history all together, rightly dividing the word of truth, and see many, many ways to prove Cornelius was of the northern kingdom of Israel, uncircumcised in his flesh. Because, you have to understand, you could just, all nations pray to God. No. You see the evidence. I stacked it up. You determine. The only one God would hear was who was prophesied to that he would hear. And Israel was the one he said he'd hear. 1 Kings 8, 46, 47, 48. All praises to the Most High, brothers and sisters. I'm your host, the Apostle Reuben. This is Friday nights. Join us tomorrow for another Sabbath lesson. May God be with you. All praises.